I'm Cole Haddon, and what you're about to listen to is a bonus episode from Season 1 of 5 a.m. Story Talk. In this podcast bonus eps, my guests break down a seminal piece of art from their lives, what I describe as mini masterclasses, although not always on the subject you expect. These bonus episodes are exclusive to my paid supporters in the season they were originally published. But in the following season, they're each unlocked, one at a time, so everyone can listen to them alongside the new episodes. Your paid subscriptions get you early access to these bonus eps, months and months early, but they also help keep the lights on here. In fact, Season 2 of this podcast enjoys several production upgrades because so many of you believe in this multimedia arts and culture conversation. I hope you consider becoming a paid supporter yourself, which you can learn more about in the show notes. Now, enjoy this 5 a.m. Story Talk bonus episode, Story Talkers. Welcome back to 5 a.m. Story Talk for this bonus episode. I'm your host, Cole Haddon, and I'm here with my new friend, screenwriter Hart Hanson, to discuss a seminal piece of art from his life, the pilot episode of Northern Exposure. Before we start, I want to note that Northern Exposure was created by Joshua Brand and John Falsey. The pilot in particular was directed by Brand and premiered on July 12, 1990. If you enjoy this conversation, please consider leaving a review, which are hugely helpful to this podcast's future. All right, welcome back, Hart. When I invited you to join me for this conversation, I asked you to pick a film or a TV series or a TV pilot that you describe as a seminal piece of artwork in your life, and you picked Northern Exposure pilot in particular. Can you tell me about the pilot Northern Exposure in general and why this show meant so much to you?
Well, sure. Northern Exposure, 1990? Yes, 1990. I was still at the very beginning of my career as a screenwriter, and I was in Canada, and Northern Exposure came out. The log line for Northern Exposure is that a Jewish doctor from Queens graduates from Columbia Medical School, and because the state of Alaska paid for him to go to medical school, he owes them 4 years in Alaska. He thinks it's going to be in Anchorage, which is at least a city. It is not. It is in the small town of Sicily, Alaska. And now he owes them 4 years of his life. That's the entryway into the series. What I loved about, what got me immediately was the freedom and range of storytelling that was possible with this simple fish out of water premise. That we would go into Sicily, Alaska with this highly educated, sophisticated, ambitious doctor and meet the people who were there. And they were so good, so fast at assuring us that you've never seen a show like this. This world there was room for magic realism. There was room for native spiritualism. There was room for anything. The range of storytelling was so open. As the series went on, 5 years, I think, it paid off on that. It, as we say, lived up to the brochure, at least for several seasons. It had its ups and downs. It had its better episodes and its least good episodes. But much to everyone's shock, people tuned in and it won a bunch of awards. It was a summer replacement series, which is something that existed in the distant past, which was when there were only 3 networks with another one coming. You played reruns in the summer, and if you really wanted to get a leg up on the other networks, you ran a new series that no one had seen before to see how it did. And it overperformed and was on for 5 years. So I can tell you what drew me to it.
Yeah, I'd love to hear where you were in your life and why you think you reacted so strongly to it.
Yes, I was at a point in my life where I was trying to figure out how to make a living as a writer. I had my second son was born, I had a first son born in 1987. My second son was born in 1990 when this show came out. I was selling some scripts to, what we called the Mother Corp in Canada, CBC, Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, and trying to figure out how was I going to make a living. And I was torn between, I loved books, and I had ways to make some money writing scripts. And then here came a TV show that kind of promised or showed the possibility that you could be more expansive in your storytelling in TV than what I had seen before. Private eye shows, cop shows, medical shows, law shows. Some of them were fantastic. Some of them I truly loved. But then along came a show that didn't seem to have that kind of high concept premise. Wasn't a soap. We had nighttime soaps. We had, Falcon Crest, and there were a whole bunch of those. I had no interest in them. There were a few Westerns, not many. PIs and cops, mostly, maybe firemen. And here we were just going to, if you could think up a way to apply what you were interested in to this show, then you could find a way to do it. And it did it. It was a thrill. It was just thrilling to watch each week. Also, best title song you could ask for, with a moose walking through the town.
You just rewatched the pilot, correct?
I did.
Looking back at it now, how do you feel about it from the perspective of today? And do you appreciate any aspects of why it works in a different way?
Yes. Wow, has pacing changed since 1990? Okay, it starts with who would do this? Joel, that's our character. Dr. Fleischman is on a jet on his way to Anchorage from New York. It's dim. It's on him and a businessman, and he's explaining the show to us. It's like the theme song from Gilligan's Island. It just says, well, this happened. I owe them 4 years. It'll be great. And the guy says, have you ever been to Alaska? And he says, no. And the guy turns off his light. So it's an expositional scene. The next scene is another expositional scene with Joel and the state official who is in charge of making sure that the doctors come and work for the 4 years. And that's the guy who tells him that where he's been assigned. So we get a bunch of the first exposition was, here's what Alaska's like. The next bunch of exposition is like, you're not going to believe what it's like in Sicily, Alaska. And then, oh, how far is it away? Joel asks, how far is it from Anchorage? And the guy says, a bus ride. So we started on an airplane, then an office, then on a bus that goes forever. And I'm just thinking, okay, I can't help it. I'm in development right now. Are these network notes? Are we getting all this exposition because the network or the studio wanted clarity? Because they always want clarity. I would have started with Joel and Ed, who is a half-native teenager who's driving him from the bus stop to Sicily. I would have started there. But, okay, there's a kind of genius to this, because it's like, I don't know about this scene. I don't know about this scene. Even the bus scene, which if you live in Vancouver, you know exactly where near Seattle that bus is. It's not Alaska. The next scene is Joel waits and waits and waits at a bus stop in the middle of nowhere. And we see this nice Jewish doctor from New York City out in the wilderness waiting and waiting. And then Ed, the native kid, shows up to pick him up in his pickup truck. And that's where they start to warn you. They start to show you, prepare you for this show isn't going to be what you think. It's not going to be a doctor saving lives. It's not going to be Dr. Quinn, medicine woman in Alaska. It's not going to be a medical procedural, which is what you're feeling like it's going to be. Ed starts playing a song. He starts playing Louie Louie for Joel through the radio. It's not the version we all know. It's the original version. So it's timeless. I mean, and I don't mean it's a classic. I mean, it doesn't fit into a time. It doesn't set a time for us. And why is this Indian kid wearing a leather jacket playing this song for him? Joel is not prepared for how this is going to go, and neither is the audience. And Ed wants to talk about films and music. He loves music. He loves punk music. It just throws you into a different world. And then, I don't want to belabor it, but I think it's a moment of genius that I intend to steal in some way before I die. The oddest thing happens. They're driving along in this Ed is driving him along in this old pickup truck. Ed stops the pickup truck, puts it into neutral, and gets out and starts to walk into the woods. And Joel says, where are you going? And Ed says, I'm going home. And he disappears into the woods. So Joel has to drive the truck, which he's not particularly good at, to Morris Minifield's house. The next thing he sees is a giant mailbox with a name on it that he recognizes as the guy who paid for his education. And we meet the astronaut. Those moments with Ed, a half native kid in a 60s pickup truck, and then a former astronaut who is telling Joel, I've built this town from the top down. I got a radio station and a newspaper, and now I got, you'll excuse me, this is a direct quote, a Jew doctor to come in. This town has everything it needs. And you have not seen this show before. And it took me longer to tell you about it than it happened. I think that's all in the first 12 minutes of a 47-minute show. And you don't know what's going to happen next. You have no idea where this show is going. And it just keeps unfolding. You meet the people in the town. There's some very odd relationships there's an older man and a younger woman relationship, like a lot older man and a lot younger woman, that would be a little creepy now. I guess it wasn't then. And as Joel spends most of the pilot thinking he's going to be able to talk his way out of this horrible place, and he can't.
So given how we started the conversation over an hour ago, what I hear are filmmakers manipulating audiences the entire time. And my favorite example of that is you are not shown the scope of the town until there's this scene where Joel goes to bed knowing there are rats in the cabin, and he hears a snap as he's falling asleep and wakes up, sort of runs out of the cabin. We have not had any wide shots at this point, other than of the main street. And he's screaming, oh God, with this dead rat at the end of a stick. And he drops it into the garbage can and turns around and for the first time sees the mountains.
Oh my God. Good. You're exactly right. Everything else was tight shots in the trains, planes, and automobiles, and the cabin and his office that we see the small town close. We see his office, and then he runs into town. And we meet some more people. You're exactly right. And even Joel, who already hates where he is gobsmacked by the physical size and beauty of the place. And so is the audience. They just keep delivering blasts of serotonin to you. It's just amazing. It's very well done. There must be a memoir that maybe these guys wrote about creating the shows. Like, I don't think it would ever have made it to a TV if it wasn't for this idea of a summer replacement. Shows that had a limited order and a microscopic budget, and they just were thrown on with no intentions to rerun them, just to see if they could find an audience. Again, the things we were talking about earlier, no overbearing audience expectations. There had to be more freedom creating this show than what the average show experienced. It felt like it came more from the writer's pens, typewriters in those days. That might have been a computer.
Yes, I agree. It's an episode that is constantly undermining your expectations and promising things that other shows, I feel, probably weren't. I'm sure I might be overlooking one or two that were on the air doing similar things, but that scene I just described, that itself is a promise, because you have a New York doctor who is going to find beauty. Now you know he's had a real human reaction that is going to remain a point of conflict. That one little moment says he will always be uncertain about how he feels about where he lives, because you can't live someplace so beautiful and then hate it. You know, there will be tension.
Even he couldn't hate it.
Yes.
And then, of course, we've already met Marilyn, his assistant, who is a native woman, Tlingit woman, who seldom says more than one word, and he never hires her. She just, I'm here for the job. That was her longest sentence, I said. Yeah. She refuses to call patients by their names. She just gives them numbers. And amongst those first patients is a man whose wife has shot him. And that's the closest thing to a procedural beat, is that Joel, acting as the doctor, is going to tell the guy how to get his wife to like him again. So it's not even, he sews up his ass, he gets shot in the ass, but he's already a part of the fabric of the place, where this isn't odd. You just go, oh yeah, of course, Edith shot Ed in the ass again or something. And we don't learn anyone's names. You don't know what you're going to get.
The assistant, if I recall correctly, just becomes the nurse. But what they don't explain, he thinks that she's just somebody for the desk, but she's medically trained
Yeah. Yes.
and she's sewing people up. And they don't tell you that. He comes in with this expectation of her, the same way that we have all these expectations of him and these characters as idiots
Yeah.
and this unexpected borderline mute native character who happens to deserve his respect as a
Yeah.
peer, not just be
Yeah.
somebody looking for a job. It's constantly challenging your expectations and the characters.
I'm 90% sure that Marilyn, later in that season, I think it's the first season, cures everyone of the flu using a smelly native concoction. Dangerous stuff now, because it's both respectful of native medicine, but it also gets some laughs out of it.
Mm.
And of course, they didn't have native writers either on it, but they were pretty good, at being respectful. They only appropriated voices. They didn't warp them too much.
Yeah, I wonder to what degree they had consultants to accomplish that.
Yeah, no idea.
Well, so we were talking about that a little bit. Can the show be made today? And how would they ruin it when they remake it?
I have tried, I'm going to say, at a minimum, every 2 or 3 years to sell a version of Northern Exposure. Not a reboot, not a remake. All I wanted to do is create a community somewhere that opened up these possibilities. When I was a kid in Toronto, there was a column called Treasure Island, written by a woman named Jean Howarth. I was a homesick West Coaster in Toronto, and she wrote about a fictional island in the Gulf Islands. We all knew it was Saturna Island. It's one of the Gulf Islands between the big Vancouver Island and the mainland of British Columbia. And she wrote it was my favorite thing each week to read her column, which was about the goings on amongst people in this town. It was very Northern Exposure-ish. It was very magic realism, funny characters with, more sophisticated than you thought. I have looked to try, both in Canada and down in the States, I've tried and I can never get anyone to bite. And Northern Exposure wasn't a particularly valuable reference. For one thing, it's old. And for another thing, I think mostly young executives think that kind of, they would use the word lackadaisical. I wouldn't. Low concept stuff is harder to sell. But there's some things in it. I can't help it. We all see this now. There's an 18-year-old girl living with a 60-year-old man, Holling and Shelley. And the way the 18-year-old, she was Canadian, the character was Canadian, was brought into town was that the astronaut character was also in his 60s, scooped her up from the Miss Northwest Passage pageant and brought her to town. And then the two men fought over her and she ended up with the bar owner. The Central Community Place as the bar. I've read the Brick. I can't remember what it was called. I'm ashamed. It looks creepy to me now. There were lots of episodes that centered around his sexual prowess in his 60s. And it made me nervous. I cannot recall if I had felt any ick about it at the time. I honestly can't. And then there's the native stuff you would creatively require people who knew the Tlingit, the Alaskan native culture, to tell that story.
Also, it would have ended up being a deeper presence because their presence in the community is relatively small.
That's right. It's the white eye. It's mostly the white eyes, and they are that, except for Ed, who's half. It is mostly white people reacting to the vagaries of the native indigenous culture. That wouldn't fly now. By the way, the clash, I think, between the cultures would fly. When I think of it, too, the other thing interesting about Northern Exposure is that Joel Fleischman is not your classic leading man. He falls into the Al Pacino. He doesn't look like Robert Redford. He looks like a guy, he's a good-looking guy. It wasn't until the second episode that we meet the show's hunk, who is Chris, the DJ from West Virginia. And that's your classic leading man. An incredibly great addition to the series because he became the Greek chorus, commenting on things over the airwaves, over the radio waves. Janine Turner, who plays Maggie, is incredibly beautiful. And the young woman, Shelley, who plays Shelley, is incredibly beautiful. But no one else is. Everyone else looks like they're from Alaska. And it's not until you see Chris that you start seeing other people. Later, Maggie has a boyfriend who's incredibly handsome and stuff, and more TV stuff. But that first episode, they're saying, you have not seen this before. This is like Dustin Hoffman being the lead of a series, not the guy who played Dr. Kildare or something.
Everybody looks real.
Everybody looks real.
Whether it's a real place in Alaska, it looks like a town somewhere.
Yeah.
Where everybody just feels like somebody you could sit next to in a bar.
The extras in the bar looked like, I've been to Alaska and I've been a ton of times to the Northwest Territories in Canada and Yukon and even James Bay. And like, that was pretty good. I suspect it was shot in a mountain community up in the mountains, up in the Coast Range above Seattle. So I'm sure they had plenty of people to draw on.
We were talking about this before. I'm struck by how edgy, I guess, is the word that I would use for it. It's 1990. It feels like it's trying things that today we wouldn't bother with on network television. They're taking swings, trying to actually comment on society from all directions. So it's not anti-conservative. It's not anti-liberal. Everybody gets to be a butt of a joke. Everybody gets to have an incorrect assumption. The jokes are being made so you have a reaction yourself and realize what maybe you inappropriately find funny, and it moves story in a really interesting, exciting way.
You're dead right. The guy you think is going to be the bad guy is the former astronaut who owns the town. And he says things that he says racist things, he says sexist things. As the show goes on, as the series goes on, he is a generous man. He has a vision for how to bring prosperity to these people, not to himself necessarily, because he's an astronaut. You can't get any higher than that. But he wants to bring things to the people here, native and non-native. He wants to make the town a great place. And there's a strange generosity to that, where they didn't just do the typical thing of a right-wing Republican greedy guts who wanted everyone to do what he said. Later on, again, in the first season, his brother dies. And he realizes he has no family, so everything he has, which is wrapped up in Sicily, Alaska, is what's he going to do with it? Who's it for? So he adopts Chris, the wildly hippie-ish, deep-thinking lefty DJ. And it's touching. It's actually touching, you know. It doesn't really work out, but not for the reasons you think. Not because they can't get along. They get along. They end up being close friends. It's just, it didn't work out for other reasons. So there's no bad guy. It was ahead of its time in terms of seeing the world. Progress versus tradition, all that stuff. They dealt with it all. Art versus commerce, all of it. They had a blast doing it.
It's a relaxing series is how perhaps I would describe it. That there can be conflicts, but it isn't necessarily there to antagonize you. I find it meditative.
Agreed.
And I don't know if there's enough of that on television. Maybe that's why it ultimately succeeded. I immediately wanted to watch more because I liked how it made me feel. That doesn't happen as often as it probably should, for as much as television allegedly grew or evolved in 30 years.
That's right. Remember when the world went crazy for Ted Lasso? I swear it's because it's kind. Kindness is one of the themes. And kindness is one of the themes of Northern Exposure, too. These wildly different people find a way to live together in a community, not in the way you think. I'm going to watch the whole series again, but I didn't find it pat. They were very good, I think, at keeping the characters being the characters, which sometimes cozy series lose track of their characters.
Maybe that's what I reacted to just in this current climate, the world that we live in today. I watched Northern Exposure. It felt like these are people. This is a world I wanted to move into and be in. And I think to some degree, perhaps that's become uncool.
It is uncool. That's exactly correct, Cole. It is uncool. I mean, I just happen to have been fighting coolness my entire career. Yeah, I'm a big fan of uncool. I am not cool, and I like things that are uncool. I like a show in which people are trying to do the right thing, and that has been out of fashion for quite a while. I don't blame. It sounds like I blame, but that's not what Breaking Bad, great show, was about. The Shield, the peak TV changes. There's a lot of people who aren't even trying to do the right thing. Dexter, and those are great shows, but I'm drawn to ones where flawed people are trying to do the right thing by other people. And it's not quite in the same subject. I was watching a debate on YouTube between a religious person and a non-religious person, and it's like, where does this selfishness come from, or this turn toward authoritarianism? Where is this turn toward authoritarianism coming from? And I was going, I have a theory. No one asked me. I wasn't there, and no one mentioned it. But, for a long time now, a major American and maybe worldwide storytelling paradigm is either a person or a team of people are going to show up and save you. Avengers, say, or any superhero, Batman. Someone's going to come, and when that right person comes, that one person comes, justice will happen and all that. And that is authoritarianism. We're waiting for a strong man, literally, to come and save the day. And I think that we all of us who work in storytelling have to go, have we been bolstering that in the culture for how long? And I'd love to hear someone smarter than me talk about that. It's just this whispering suspicion I have.
I don't know if he's smarter than you, but Alan Moore, the creator of Watchmen,
He's smarter than me.
he goes on a lot about the idea that popular superheroes and the rise superhero movies has led to this sort of infantile reaction to right, wrong, dark, light.
You're watching, like, I don't want to pick on Avengers or anything, but like the heroes are fighting monsters or aliens. And just you're looking and going, boy, how many innocent people are being wiped out as these buildings.
I have a problem myself. I grew up with comic books. I love these films. I love them. And I think that they also have good things.
They're so good.
Look back at American mythology. There's always somebody with a gun who's coming to save you. There's always a violent figure, even if he's forced. It's almost always a man forced to pick up the gun. Somehow somebody else is going to come and kill all the bad guys and save the town. And you go back, you watch Gary Cooper films. There's nobody else in town will do it. I guess it's up to me, the sheriff.
I'll stand up for that kid. I'll stand up for that widow.
Yes, nobody else will do it. They're literally running. They're selling me out. The average American citizen are cowards, but me with this shield on my chest and my gun, I know what's right and wrong.
Great story. The Jesus, not to be offensive, but the Jesus myth fits in there as well. The one will come and save us. And it's like, I think it's pretty hard to write a story in which a committee of concerned citizens saves the world.
And more interesting, some degree, to bring it back to Northern Exposure before we wrap up, to watch a community that of different people, different political beliefs, different ethnic backgrounds, cultural backgrounds, finding a way to live together in a way where they all more or less still like each other. It feels quaint, but
I respond to that. I respond to an ensemble community making adjustments for each other. And I have been asked where I get that before, because I always write that, a found family. And my answer is embarrassing, but if I think about it hard enough, I realize, oh, the first stories I loved were the Winnie the Pooh, the original Winnie the Pooh stories with those etchings. And it's like Rabbit would drive you insane, but they all helped. And when Tigger got depressed and when Eeyore, they found his tail and put it back on. I mean, it's like, I like those stories, but no one's going to ask me to write the next Matrix. That's for sure.
Thank you, Hart. This has been amazing. I think I've loved every minute of the conversation. Thank you for challenging me and having such great thoughts. All right.
It's been delightful talking to you. I've jotted down some notes to change my life.
Well, thank you. I hope we stay in touch.
Oh, yeah. Anytime. Lovely to talk to you. As for you listening, thank you again for your support of 5 a.m. Story Talk. If you have any questions about this episode, please drop them in the comments and I will do my best to answer them for you. I hope to see you for the next episode, my friends.